Well, now we're going to do part 2 of the talk on justice. Now, as we saw last time, justice is governed by wisdom. That justice is doing to the other, giving to the other what is his due. And if you don't do that wisely, then you don't have justice. So if you go to extremes and don't give enough, or you give too much, or you give it too soon or too late, then you don't have justice. And we talked about the 3 different kinds of justice. There's distributive justice, which is the justice that the head of a group owes to the individual in the group. We talked about commutative justice, which is what one person owes to another. So another aspect of distributive justice is how the people in society should respond to the decisions of the leader when he's distributing the goods of the community or making a decision for the common good. In the family, this pertains to how children should respond when a decision is made by their father or their parents about what they can or cannot do. Children should be trained to accept reasonable commands from their parents without whining and complaining about it. They should also be taught to distinguish between a wise command of their parents and a command which perhaps isn't wise and needs some more information from the children. So, for example, a wise command would be, no, you can't have candy until after supper. Okay, a child needs to learn to accept that. On the other hand, a child who's in the car driving and wants to stop for a potty stop, and the father says, no, we're going to continue on driving, the child needs to make clear to the father that things are becoming urgent and that he really needs to stop. So a child needs to be able to make a distinction between a wisely made decision that should be settled and one that was made not so wisely because some information wasn't available, and then that information needs to be made available to the father. As children get older and parents get older, their relationship and characteristics of their relationship shifts. And the parents become the ones who are in need of help and assistance, and the children are the ones that provide it. That's also pertaining to justice. In a situation like that, the children have a duty to give to their parents what is their due. In this case, it's the help and assistance that they need to do things which they are no longer able to do for themselves. Now, there are a few addendums that I'd like to mention. One of them is, this is part of justice. We talked about giving to another what is his due. Under that aspect, Aquinas treats the virtue of religion, which is a sub-virtue of justice. And in the virtue of religion, Aquinas, that's what we owe to God. And that virtue is different from the other aspects of the virtue of justice. I can give to you what is your due completely, and it's done. I can never do that with God. God created me. I am totally and completely dependent on him. There's no way I can pay him back for that and say, that's it, we're even. God always remains above, and it's impossible to completely discharge one's duty to God. So that religion is a little different from justice in that it isn't something you can actually do once and for all. It's something that you always have to keep on doing. So God is owed certain things like worship and obedience. He is always owed those things, and you can never give them once and for all and be done with it. In a certain sense, Aquinas distinguishes between justice and what one owes to another and what one owes to one's parents. And he has a different name for what one owes to one's parents. He doesn't call that justice. He calls that pietas, or literally piety. Because what we owe to our parents, we can never, again, fully discharge. Our parents brought us into being. And if not for them, we wouldn't be here. So there's never a point where we can pay back, having been put into being, and say, that's it, we're even. We will always owe our parents the respect and the gratitude and the care for having given birth to us and raised us. Aquinas has another virtue. He calls it observancia. I don't know how to translate that into English. I don't think we have an English translation for it. That's the respect that we show, that is owed to people who provide over and above what is for the common good. He's thinking there are people like soldiers, policemen, firefighters, people who put their lives on the line for the common good. Again, we can never completely pay them back for what they do, and we always owe them respect. Now, justice isn't enough for a community to function well. We need to go beyond justice. And that's certainly true in a family. A family has to be regulated by love. If we only had justice, then people would find no need to be friends to a stranger. You don't owe a stranger anything, and so forth. So that is something which is necessary, and that's where we have to go beyond justice to do things like thanking people, telling the truth. Those are all things without which we can't have a community. So those are some of the issues behind the virtue of justice. Now, next time, I'm going to talk about the virtue of courage. Sometimes it is difficult to give to another what is his due. Sometimes it is not easy for a father, for example, to give fairly to his whole family what is their due. Sometimes it is not easy for a political figure to make a decision which is for the common good and not simply for his party. In order to make a decision like that and to do justice under difficult circumstances, one needs the virtue of courage or fortitude. And that's the virtue that I'll talk about next time. In the meantime, if you liked this podcast and if you'd like to subscribe to it, there's a button at the bottom here you can click to subscribe. And if you liked it, there's a button you can click that indicates that you liked it. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.